My name is James. To the world, I was the heir to a multi-billion-dollar fortune, the son of a tech titan, and a face plastered on the covers of magazines since I could walk. But the world had no idea what that actually felt like. To be constantly scrutinized, stalked by flashing cameras, and surrounded by people who only saw dollar signs when they looked at me. So, I made a choice. I walked away from it all. I wanted a shot at normalcy, to experience life without the weight of my last name. That's how I ended up at Ridgeway High. No one here knew who I was. I became just another face in the crowd, except I wasn't. I was the target. The kid everyone bullied because I didn't wear the latest clothes, didn't drive a fancy car, and didn't fit in. I was shoved into lockers, laughed at, and mocked for being quiet. Every day felt like a test of how much I could take before breaking. And then there was Emily. She didn't just see me as a nobody. She didn't join in when the others would make fun of me. She was different. She showed me a side of life I had never seen before. She taught me how to be normal, how to ride a bike through the streets, how to make mac and cheese from a box, how to just be without all the trappings of my world. I started falling for her, and I thought, maybe, just maybe, she saw something in me too. Valentine's Day was coming up, and after weeks of pep talks and sweaty palms, I finally asked her to the dance. I did it in front of the class. The words were barely out of my mouth when the laughter erupted. The whole class thought it was hilarious, the idea of me, the outcast, asking Emily, the girl everyone liked, to the biggest dance of the year. But then something happened that shut them all up. She said yes. She didn't hesitate, didn't laugh, didn't look embarrassed. Emily smiled and said, "I'd love to." The class fell silent, jaws dropping, eyes wide with disbelief. But I didn't care about any of them. She said yes. The night of the dance, I showed up in a vintage car I rented, a quiet nod to the life I left behind but without any of the flash. I wasn't about to make a scene. I just wanted the night to be about Emily and me. When she opened her door, my breath caught. She looked stunning in her simple dress, no glitter, no jewels, just her. She smiled at me like it was the easiest thing in the world, like she hadn't just thrown the entire social hierarchy of Ridgeway on its head. But the moment we walked into the gym, I could feel the eyes on us. The whispers started immediately. People gawked at us, muttering under their breath, confused about why Emily had chosen to be here with me. I could feel the judgment, the disbelief, but none of it mattered when I saw the way Emily looked at me. I was on top of the world, until Ryan stepped onto the stage. Ryan. The guy everyone wanted to be and every girl wanted to date. He had been watching me from the moment I walked in, and now, with the microphone in hand, I knew he was about to make his move. "Hey, James," Ryan's voice boomed through the speakers, and the crowd quieted. "How about you tell everyone who you really are?" My heart stopped. No? He couldn't know. I froze as Ryan pulled out his phone, flashing pictures of my family's estate, my father's name plastered all over the screen. Gasps echoed through the gym as the realization spread. "You're not some nobody, are you?" Ryan smirked, leaning into the mic. "Tell them, James. Tell them how you've been lying to all of us." I could feel everyone's eyes burning into me. My throat tightened, and my hands clenched into fists at my sides. I could see Emily's confusion, the questions in her eyes. She stepped back, her expression unreadable. "It's true," I whispered, though the words felt like glass shards in my throat. "My family, we're wealthy." I didn't want anyone to know. The crowd erupted in whispers, shocked and excited. I had become the biggest scandal Ridgeway had ever seen. But the one person I cared about wasn't saying anything. Emily stared at me, her face cold and distant. Then, to my horror, she laughed. A bitter, sharp sound that I had never heard from her before. "Of course, you're rich," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you really think you could hide something like that from me?" I stared at her, my heart sinking. "Emily, what are you talking about?" She shook her head, that cold smile never leaving her face. "I knew all along. You think you're the only one with secrets. I was just waiting for the right moment to see how long you'd play this little game. Her words were daggers. My world spun, crashing down around me. Emily, my Emily, had known all along and had been playing me. My vision blurred, my heart pounding so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. She turned to walk away, but Ryan's smug voice called after her, "Wait. That wasn't the plan, Emily." She stopped dead in her tracks and turned, eyes blazing. "What plan?" Ryan faltered, his cocky grin fading. You weren't supposed to, we were going to embarrass him, remember?" A dangerous silence settled over the gym. Emily's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, everyone held their breath. "I'm done with you, Ryan," she spat, grabbing the microphone from his hand. "You think I was going to go along with your little plan to humiliate him? You don't know me at all." Ryan's face drained of color. Emily's voice rang through the gym, loud and clear. This was never about his money. It was about us. And you? You were just a pathetic pawn. She dropped the mic, the sound echoing like a gunshot, and walked out, leaving a stunned silence behind. I stayed away from school after that. How could I face them? How could I face her? For days, I replayed that night over and over. The betrayal, the lies. It all felt like too much. But then, one evening, I got a text from Emily. "Meet me at the lake. We need to talk." I stared at the message, conflicted. She had lied, played me, and yet I needed answers. So I went. The lake was quiet, the water still. Emily stood at the edge of the dock, her arms wrapped around herself. When she saw me, her face softened, and for a moment, I saw the girl I had once trusted. "I know you hate me right now," she said, her voice small. "And you have every right to. But I need you to know the truth." I folded my arms, keeping my distance. "What truth, Emily? That you've been lying to me this whole time?" She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "No. Not about that. Ryan found out about you months ago. He blackmailed me into going along with his plan to expose you. He said he'd ruin my family if I didn't. I didn't know what to do, James. I didn't want to hurt you, but I was scared. Why didn't you just tell me?" My voice cracked with frustration. "I wanted to," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I thought you'd hate me. I thought you'd think I was like everyone else, that I was using you." Her words hit me like a wave, and suddenly, everything made sense. The strange moments, the hesitation in her eyes. She had been trapped, just like me. "And the dance?" I asked. "Why did you say all those things?" Emily swallowed hard, guilt flashing across her face. I panicked. "I saw Ryan getting ready to expose you, and I thought if I turned on you first, I could protect you. I was wrong. I hurt you." I took a deep breath, the weight of her confession settling in. The betrayal still stung, but I could see the fear in her eyes. She hadn't been trying to break me. She had been trying to save me, in her own twisted way. I stepped closer, my voice soft. "No more lies, Emily. If we're going to fix this, I need the truth." She nodded, her tears spilling over. No more lies. For the first time since that night, I felt the walls between us crumble. Slowly, cautiously, we sat down on the dock together, watching the sun sink into the horizon. The silence between us was no longer filled with anger or betrayal. It was filled with something new, hope. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I worked through the damage. We went slowly, rebuilding what had been broken. Ridgeway was buzzing with gossip, but I didn't care anymore. The people who had laughed at me now looked at me with curiosity, wondering how I could forgive her. But they didn't know Emily like I did. And when graduation came, we both knew what came next. After the ceremony, as we stood under the stars, I asked her a question I had been thinking about for weeks. "What if we just leave? Together?" She smiled, her eyes lighting up with the same warmth that had first drawn me to her. "I'd like that." So we did. We moved into a small apartment, nothing fancy, but it was ours. No secrets, no lies, just the two of us. We found something better than wealth or status, we found each other. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.